For years, the Las Vegas housing market was a seller's paradise. Homes vanished from listings in days bidding wars, pushed prices to record highs, and buyers were forced to take whatever they could get. But in 2025, something historic happened. For the first time in over a decade, the balance of power shifted, and suddenly buyers hold all the cards. The same city that once demanded sky-high prices is now flooded with unsold homes, desperate sellers, and builders offering deals that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. Median prices hit nearly $500,000 earlier this year, yet thousands of homes are sitting empty, waiting for someone to make the first move. Entire neighborhoods are dangling discounts covering closing costs, even slashing 10% off the asking price. And it's not because demand disappeared forever, it's because supply surged faster than anyone expected. In July alone, listings exploded past 10,000, while more than 7,000 single-family homes went without a single offer. For buyers who have been waiting on the sidelines, saving their down payment, and watching prices spiral out of reach, this is the moment they've been hoping for. But like every market cycle in Las Vegas, this window won't last. The question is simple: will you take advantage of it while you still can? Or will you look back, wondering why you waited too long? Las Vegas has always been known for extremes, and its housing market is no exception. Just a year ago, sellers still called the shots. Buyers lined up, paid above asking price, and sometimes waived inspections just to get a deal done. But by the summer of 2025, the script flipped in dramatic fashion. Inventory. The number of homes available for sale surged to levels the city hadn't seen in years. Single-family homes saw a 54% jump in available listings compared to the previous summer, while condos and townhomes spiked by an astonishing 77%. That meant more options, more leverage, and more bargaining power for anyone looking to buy. By July, the Las Vegas Valley recorded nearly 10,000 active listings across houses, condos, and townhomes. But the most shocking number wasn't how many homes were listed, it was how many were ignored. Over 7,100 single-family homes sat without a single offer. More than 2,600 condos and townhomes also had zero interest from buyers. For the first time in years, thousands of properties lingered on the market, waiting, dropping in price, or offering incentives just to get noticed. This sudden glut didn't happen by accident. For more than a decade, Las Vegas has been a magnet for newcomers, especially from neighboring California. With Los Angeles just a 4-hour drive away, and Nevada's cost of living historically lower, builders could count on steady demand. But rapid population growth created complacency among developers and sellers alike. They didn't need to advertise heavily or offer deals because buyers seemed endless. That momentum, however, has slowed, and supply has now outpaced demand. Sellers who once had 15 offers competing for their property are suddenly staring at months of silence. For buyers, this is an almost surreal reversal. Instead of competing in bidding wars, they now have the freedom to browse, compare, and negotiate aggressively. Closing costs, once a burden that buyers had no choice but to shoulder, are now being picked up by sellers. Price cuts of 5 to 10% are becoming normal, not rare. Entire communities are even offering reduced mortgage rates just to fill their homes. In effect, the same city that punished hesitation is now rewarding patience. Those who waited on the sidelines, whether out of frustration or caution, suddenly find themselves in a position of power. The key takeaway is clear: Las Vegas has entered a new phase where buyers are no longer at the mercy of an overheated market. The surge in listings has changed the psychology of real estate in the city. Homes are no longer seen as a guaranteed jackpot for sellers. They're a commodity that must be priced competitively, marketed strategically, and sweetened with incentives to move. For the first time in years, the buyer gets to dictate the terms. For so long, sellers in Las Vegas carried themselves with unshakable confidence. They had the numbers on their side: a booming population, steady migration from California, and limited supply that forced buyers to accept nearly any condition. If you were selling a home even just a couple of years ago, you didn't need to negotiate. You simply listed, waited a few days, and watched the offers roll in. Many sellers treated the process like an auction, picking from dozens of eager buyers and pushing prices beyond appraised value. That era, at least for now, is over. The dramatic rise in inventory has stripped sellers of the leverage they once enjoyed. Properties that would have sparked bidding wars are now sitting untouched for weeks or months. Homeowners expecting quick deals are instead facing hard choices: cut the price, pay for the buyer's closing costs, or pull the home off the market entirely. Price reductions of 5 to 10% are no longer rare headlines. They're becoming the new normal. And when sellers aren't willing to slash their asking price, they're resorting to incentives, like covering appraisal fees, offering free upgrades, or throwing in extra amenities just to keep buyers interested. This shift is especially visible in new housing developments. Builders who once had waiting lists now find themselves competing aggressively for attention. Some communities are advertising reduced mortgage rates, such as 4.49% on FHA or VA loans far below the national average. Others are covering large portions of the buyer's closing costs, a gesture that can save thousands of dollars up front. These concessions, almost unheard of in the frenzied markets of recent years, highlight just how much the balance of power has shifted. The buyer is no longer the one pleading for a chance, the seller is. The ripple effect extends beyond individual deals. Entire neighborhoods are adjusting their pricing strategies, with developers under pressure to move inventory before carrying costs and interest eat into their profits. Sellers who bought during peak prices are facing an even harsher reality if they need to sell. Now they may walk away with less equity than they expected. Investors once confident that Vegas homes would only appreciate are also reconsidering their positions as rental competition increases and vacancies become harder to fill. For the everyday buyer, these changes present an extraordinary opportunity. Sellers' desperation translates directly into buyer leverage. Negotiations that once felt hopeless now tilt in favor of the purchaser. A buyer can ask for repairs demand credits at closing or push for price cuts, and in many cases get them. The playing field has not just leveled, it has tipped, and the advantage lies squarely with those ready to act. Still, this reversal carries a psychological impact. Sellers accustomed to a seller's market are struggling to adjust, often clinging to outdated expectations. Many resist lowering prices until weeks of inactivity force their hand. Others believe the market will bounce back quickly, choosing to wait rather than negotiate. But the numbers don't lie: more homes, fewer offers, and a buyer pool that suddenly has options. That tension between sellers holding on to the past and buyers demanding deals defines the current landscape in Las Vegas. Opportunities like this don't last forever, and Las Vegas is the perfect example of why. At first glance, the sheer number of unsold homes makes it seem as if buyers will remain in control indefinitely. But a closer look at the city's history and long-term trends reveals a different story. This moment of leverage for buyers is real, but it is also temporary. The clock is already ticking. Start with population growth. Over the past 12 years, the Las Vegas Valley has welcomed more than 500,000 new residents. Entire communities have been built to absorb this influx, yet demand continues to outpace expectations. In just 1 month in August 2023, more than 5,000 people relocated from Los Angeles alone. And the migration isn't slowing. Families from other states, retirees from across the country, and even international buyers continue to view Las Vegas as an attractive place to settle. That steady stream of new residents means that no matter how high inventory looks today, there will always be a pool of buyers ready to return. Then consider the bigger picture of housing supply. Current inventory feels overwhelming because it's being compared to the red-hot years of 2020 through 2023, when homes were snapped up within days. But if you line up the data, today's inventory is far from unprecedented. In fact, it is almost identical to the levels seen in 2019, when the market was considered healthy and balanced. It is also well below the peak levels of 2022, when supply truly outpaced demand nationwide. What looks like a glut today is in reality a return to normalcy after years of artificially tight supply. The shortage of new construction also tells a cautionary tale. A recent study by the University of Nevada, Las Vegas compared the number of new building permits in the valley with other large metro areas. The results were striking. During the 1990s and early 2000s, Las Vegas was one of the leaders in new housing development, rivaled only by Phoenix. But starting in the 2010s, that momentum collapsed. While other cities ramped up building to meet demand, Las Vegas dramatically cut back. For more than a decade, the valley consistently underbuilt relative to its population growth. That underbuilding created the very shortage that fueled soaring prices in recent years. Today's higher inventory looks dramatic only because it is being stacked against those years of chronic undersupply. In reality, the city is still paying the price for a decade of slow building. Once current listings are absorbed, the fundamental shortage of housing will resurface, and buyers will lose their negotiating edge. The pendulum that swung so sharply toward buyers can just as easily swing back. Another factor is psychology. Buyers are emboldened now because they believe they have options. But once those options start disappearing, when price cuts shrink, when incentives dry up, when listings start to move again, the mentality shifts. Buyers who feel they missed their chance rush back into the market, driving demand higher. That sudden surge can quickly tip the balance back towards sellers, reigniting competition and pushing prices up again. The lesson is simple: while the market feels wide open today, it won't stay that way. Population growth, limited long-term supply, and the cyclical nature of real estate mean this period of buyer dominance is already on borrowed time. For those who have been waiting for years, the moment is here, but it won't be here forever. Even as inventory and population trends shape the housing market, interest rates remain the single most powerful force capable of flipping it overnight. For many buyers, mortgage rates are the difference between an affordable payment and being priced out entirely. And in Las Vegas, just like the rest of the country, interest rates are now intertwined with national politics in ways that could dramatically shift the balance between buyers and sellers. Once again, since late 2022, mortgage rates have hovered in the 6 to 7% range. That is more than double the ultra-low rates under 3% seen during the pandemic years. For buyers who entered the market during that period, today's rates feel punishing. Many are waiting on the sidelines, hoping rates will come back down before they make a move. But the harsh truth is that the golden days of 2 or 3% mortgages are gone forever. Those rates were an anomaly born out of emergency policies during COVID-19, and they will not return. This reality has created a waiting game, and it centers on the Federal Reserve. Jerome Powell, the current Fed chairman, has resisted repeated pressure from President Trump to slash rates. His term ends in May 2026, and with that deadline approaching, speculation is growing. If Powell refuses to ease rates before he leaves, Trump is widely expected to appoint a successor more aligned with his vision, someone who would be willing to push rates down aggressively. That decision could have massive consequences for housing. Imagine what happens if rates drop into the fives or even lower. Suddenly, millions of Americans who have been holding back will re-enter the market. They will rush to refinance, upgrade, or finally purchase the homes they've been waiting for. In Las Vegas, where supply is already fragile and underbuilt compared to other major cities, that surge in demand would quickly erase today's buyer-friendly landscape. Sellers would regain the upper hand, listings would disappear faster, and prices would stabilize or climb once again. The danger lies in how quickly such a shift could occur. If Powell gradually lowers rates on his way out, the transition might be smoother, giving the market time to adjust. But if the new Fed chairman slashes rates suddenly, the shock could ignite a frenzy. Buyers who waited too long would find themselves competing in bidding wars once again, just as they did a few years ago. And those who locked in deals during today's market would look like the smartest players in the room. This is why experts warn against assuming the current market conditions will last. Interest rates don't just influence affordability, they shape psychology. When money becomes cheaper to borrow, confidence grows, demand spikes, and the balance tips. And in a city like Las Vegas, where population growth never truly stops, the effect is magnified. For now, buyers can still take advantage of discounts, incentives, and leverage. But the political clock is ticking, and the future of mortgage rates is anything but stable. What happens in Washington over the next year will ripple through every neighborhood in the valley. The question isn't if the market will shift again, it's when. In a market as volatile as Las Vegas, the smartest move isn't waiting for perfect timing, it's preparing to act when the odds tilt in your favor. Right now, buyers have that advantage, but it requires strategy to turn market conditions into real savings. The first step is financial readiness. Having your down payment, credit profile, and pre-approval in place gives you leverage not just over sellers, but also over other buyers who may hesitate. Sellers respond more favorably to serious offers backed by financing, especially in a market where homes are sitting idle. The second step is negotiation. Buyers should not be shy about asking for concessions. Closing costs, appraisal credits, and even repair allowances are on the table in ways they haven't been for over a decade. Many sellers are nervous, some desperate, and they are more willing than ever to accommodate demands just to close the deal. Pushing for a 5 to 10% price cut is realistic, not greedy in this environment. And when dealing with new home builders, buyers should look closely at incentive packages. Reduced mortgage rates, covered fees, and added upgrades can add up to tens of thousands in long-term savings. Timing also matters. While the temptation might be to hold off and hope rates drop in the future, that gamble carries risk. If rates fall sharply in 2026, as many expect, demand will flood back into the market and erase today's negotiating power. Buyers who act now secure both the property and the terms while still holding the option to refinance later if rates improve. In other words, it is better to buy the home you want today at a discount and refinance later than to compete in a bidding war tomorrow. Finally, buyers need to think long-term. Las Vegas continues to attract new residents, and underbuilding in the 2010s means the valley will face supply pressures for years to come. A purchase made now, while sellers are vulnerable, could quickly turn into a valuable asset once the cycle shifts again. The real winners in real estate aren't those who wait for the perfect rate. They're those who recognize when the market hands them a rare advantage and act decisively. For those ready to move, the roadmap is simple. Prepare your finances, negotiate aggressively, and lock in a property while the market still bends toward the buyer. The window won't stay open forever, and when it closes, those who acted will be glad they did. The Las Vegas housing market has always been unpredictable, but what we're seeing right now is extraordinary. For the first time in years, buyers are in control. Inventory is high, sellers are cutting prices, and builders are offering deals that were once unimaginable. It's a rare moment in which patience is finally paying off for those who waited. But history shows us that in real estate, no advantage lasts forever. Population growth will continue, supply will tighten, and interest rate changes could flip the market back to favor sellers almost overnight. That's why the smartest move isn't waiting for perfect conditions. It's recognizing when the odds are stacked in your favor. Buyers today have leverage to negotiate lower prices, demand concessions, and secure homes without the pressure of bidding wars. Yet the same forces that created this opportunity, high inventory, cautious buyers, and political uncertainty, are already shifting. When the pendulum swings again, the deals available today will vanish. So the choice is clear. Act now while sellers are still willing to meet you halfway, or risk being pushed back into a market where hesitation costs you everything. In Las Vegas, timing is everything, and right now, the timing belongs to you.